Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another video. We're bringing you today about Dragon Ball Super, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about a topic and a character who really, honestly, I feel should be getting a little bit more shine in this series as a whole, and who I felt maybe had a chance last time in the last arc, and they didn't really give it to him, and that is Piccolo. And today joining me, we have the man himself, the Qua Man, in fact, and his name is...
Alrighty guys, it is Qua Man here today.
Yeah, so today basically what we're going to be talking about is how can we make Piccolo really relevant in Dragon Ball Super, and I don't mean like a relevant piece of furniture who hangs out in the background like every other Toriyama creation at this point except for Goku and Vegeta. I mean, you know, actually relevant and, you know, actually able to make an impact and maybe do something of worth at this point. And what do you think, Qua Man? What do you think? How do you think this is possible?
Well, honestly, Mike, I think the point where Piccolo could have some usage again would be in this Omniversal tournament, hopefully if he is able to participate. And what I think Piccolo needs is he's clearly weaker than, you know, the majority of the Dragon Ball characters, but maybe if he, you know, somehow acquires an ability to train with God Ki, because it's pretty much implied, we talked about this before, that you don't necessarily have to have, you know, Saiyan genes to have God Ki. God Ki has nothing to do with really being a Saiyan.
Yeah, Beerus isn't a Saiyan.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm not saying he would become a Namekian god or anything or get a transformation, but I think he needs to learn how to train with God Ki, train with Beerus and Whis at a higher level, and I definitely think probably going either into the Hyperbolic Time Chamber again, maybe with a partner, or going into the Cloudy Dimension could actually help Piccolo out. What do you think about the Cloudy Dimension idea?
I really like that, and I thought that they were going to do that leading up to this current, you know, multiversal tournament that they had before, because there is a difference between multiverse and omniverse for my viewers listening, because a lot of people try and say it's multiversal. It represents the whole of creation that we know of, so it's omniversal. But I don't know why they didn't. I only wonder how big of a time difference is in the Cloudy Dimension, because when they're in there for the first time, they're talking about how the time in there is probably different, also like the Time Chamber. However, it's probably not to the degree of the Time Chamber, just because they went and trained in there for 3 days as opposed to staying in the Cloudy Dimension. But I feel like that's the best way for him to learn God Ki. I mean, all realistically they have to do is have Whis throw them in there, say, keep your Ki in your body, and then they can move around and become gods. So, I mean, God Ki doesn't really seem to be that difficult. Honestly, from what I've seen, it seems like they just super condense all of their Ki inside their body to make it more potent. Maybe that's why it has less stamina, I don't know. Do you think that Piccolo would attain another form? I mean, that'd be interesting to see like a Namekian transformation.
I think that's a little too far, Mike, because I think if we would have ever seen a Namekian transformation, I think we would have seen it already. I think the only way Namekians can quote-unquote transform or morph in some way is by pretty much fusing with another Namek. But Mike, the problem I find with that, bro, is that what other Namek is there in the Dragon Ball universe right now that would really increase Piccolo's power? Because like at this point of the series, he's pretty much so much stronger than pretty much all Nameks that exist. I mean, what Namek do you think he could, you know, let me give it for my view as an example. So like Goten and Trunks, you know, they're around the same strength. Goku and Vegeta are clearly, you know, on par, even though they're weaker. Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, like these are characters on the lower tier. But like really, who as a Namekian or a fusee could really fuse with Piccolo? What do you say?
I mean, now that we have future Trunks being reintroduced into Dragon Ball, you know, through Dragon Ball Super, I mean, it is possible that he wished back the other Z fighters with Namekian Dragon Balls, so it's entirely possible that maybe Piccolo could fuse with future Piccolo. I mean, I don't think it's an impossibility, although I really doubt future Piccolo is even close to the strength that Piccolo is right now. I mean, this Piccolo is probably stronger than Buhan was. I would only assume he has to be, considering, you know, how well he did against Frost. So I have no idea if fusion would do anything to him. I mean, realistically, I guess he could go to Namek right now, and maybe there's some warriors left that he can fuse with, but what, will they give him 1/1,000,000% of a boost? Like, what? I don't really know, unless there's Universe 6 Namekians, and maybe they show up at the next tournament, but, I mean, obviously they would lose if they fuse with Piccolo, so I don't really know what he would be able to do.
Exactly, and it also doesn't make any sense why Piccolo would fuse with, you know, a competing universe. But honestly, Mike, I mean, taking all power things aside, bro, I think what they could also possibly do for Piccolo is just have him a little bit more involved in the fighting. I mean, if you look at it in Super so far, okay, Battle of Gods arc, he didn't do very well in the Super series. Let's not talk about what happened in Battle of Gods. If we move on to the Resurrection of F, you know, saga, I mean, he got killed in the Super version, and in the movie, I mean, he didn't really do much outside of fighting the Frieza soldiers, so, I mean, he had a role, but it wasn't like a major game-changing move, except for, I guess you could say, maybe saving Gohan's life.
We'll have to see how that pans out, because if Gohan ends up becoming relevant in this next arc, Piccolo is what caused him to train, so we could definitely say that that was of use for him, but, I mean, it was still kind of indirect.
And, I mean, if we were to go to the Universe 6 arc, I mean, Piccolo's role, he had a decent role. I mean, he was fighting against Frost. I mean, he did lose, you know, with a cheating technicality, but I thought, you know, they at least brought him back and they gave him some usage, so hey, at least they involved him, you know, and he seemed like he was going to win the fight, so.
I would have liked to actually see him win, because the fact of the matter is, like, I mean, he could have lost to Vegeta. I don't think that's really that big of a deal, because Vegeta was ridiculously overpowered, you know, compared to everyone except for the Saiyans, but, like, yeah, I feel like he should have won against Frost just to get some more credibility back, but they showed that he was going to win, so I don't think it's too big of a deal.
Yeah, and other than that, Mike, I mean, I think Piccolo had a decent usage. I just don't like the way they made him lose. That's my only complaint.
Well, do you think what was worse, him losing or him telling Vegeta, okay, you could step in and fight?
Well, I think that's what really killed it, how they basically told Vegeta to step in and fight. And Mike, the funny thing is, I don't know if you could link this, but I made a video, like, basically comparing which series screwed over Piccolo more between, you know, Super and GT.
I remember that.
Interestingly enough, I actually said that Super's done a better job with him, because if you think about it, GT, I mean, they brought him for, like, you know, to fight Baby Gohan. He gets blown away into an X, even though it was implied he could have survived but didn't really die, and then we move on later on, he basically just kills himself with the planet. So, I mean, they just did nothing with him in GT, really.
And he didn't accomplish anything by dying either. Like, the planet still, like, ended. The Shenron, you know, from the different Dragon Balls comes out and causes the Shadow Dragon, so, like, they really messed him up in GT. He accomplished nothing in that series, and it didn't even make any sense how somehow the other Dragon Balls were even working with Piccolo, and he never mentioned them ever up until GT. Like, really? It's ridiculous that he didn't have the balls in GT. But, yeah, so, you have any kind of final thoughts you think about how to make him relevant? Like, what do you think he could do to become relevant again other than fusing? Maybe he can make a new technique, because his Makanko Sappo at this point in time still seems like it would do some real damage. I mean, he was going to beat Frost with it after all.
Yeah, I think a new technique would also work, but in terms of character development, Mike, I think maybe an additional training sequence with Goten, Trunks, or maybe even Gohan would be interesting, and I also think it'd be interesting if we see Piccolo interact with Namex again. I think that could add more towards his character.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, pretty much what incentive does he have to go to the Namex in this universe?
Exactly, and it would be really cool to see maybe them try and repeat it to a little bit, you know, of a degree with Goten and Trunks maybe studying under Piccolo. They haven't really been of use at all, but maybe I'll do a video about that as well. But basically, I think that this has been our thoughts. There are ways to make Piccolo relevant, and I feel like we really should, just to make this show more interesting, because we need more than just the Goku show. I mean, that was the biggest problem with GT, and Vegeta, you know, doesn't really seem to be doing a whole lot right now to figure out how to surpass Goku, because he seemed to be fine with Monaka, you know, being weak and all. But at the end of the day, this is our thoughts. Let us know your own thoughts down below. What are your thoughts on how to make him relevant? Do you think he should become relevant, or do you think he should stay away from sushi restaurants? Let me know down below. And don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out Kwanman's channel, and as I always say, stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
And please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.
And don't get killed by chopsticks.
Fuck you.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Do it now. What do you wait?
Do it now, you puny man. Who cares about the universe 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Blah.
The universe of biceps. No.